John F. Kennedy's assassination on November 22, 1963, remains one of the most shocking moments in American history. The brutal slaying of this young, charismatic leader in broad daylight sent shockwaves through a nation. For decades, theories have circulated about the true reasons behind his tragic death. While the official story points to Lee Harvey Oswald, many believe there were deeper political motivations at play. Today, we delve into the murky depths of these theories as we count down the top 5 political reasons why JFK may have been assassinated. And now, for the top reason, we turn our attention to a rarely discussed aspect of Kennedy's presidency, his bold challenge to the Federal Reserve, an institution that has long been shrouded in mystery and power. Few know that in 1963, JFK signed Executive Order 11,110, a seemingly innocuous document that held the potential to reshape the American financial landscape. This order was not just a piece of paper, it was a statement of intent, a declaration of independence from the financial oligarchy. This order allowed the U.S. Treasury, not the Federal Reserve, to issue silver-backed currency. This was a significant move, as it aimed to reduce the nation's reliance on the Federal Reserve's fiat money, which was not backed by any physical commodity. Imagine the audacity of this move, a direct challenge to the established order, a move that threatened to disrupt the power dynamics that had held sway for decades. It was a bold step towards financial sovereignty, a move that could have altered the course of American economic history. This was a significant shift that threatened the power and influence of private banks that controlled the Federal Reserve. These banks had long enjoyed the privilege of creating money out of thin air, lending it to the government at interest and reaping enormous profits in the process. By directly challenging this financial institution, Kennedy risked shaking up the entire economic system that was, and still is, deeply entrenched in U.S. politics. His actions were a clear signal that he was willing to take on the most powerful entities in the country to restore financial control to the government and, by extension, to the people. The signing of Executive Order 11,110 was a declaration that Kennedy would not be beholden to the whims of powerful financial interests. It was a move that underscored his commitment to transparency and accountability in government. He sought to wrest control of the nation's currency, to return it to the hands of the people, a move that struck at the very heart of the established power structure. This was not just about money, it was about who held the reins of power in America. The executive order, however, was never fully implemented after his death. The dream of a financially independent America, free from the grip of private banking interests, was left unfulfilled. It was as if the very act of challenging the Federal Reserve had sealed Kennedy's fate. His assassination left many wondering if his bold financial moves had made him too dangerous to the status quo. The machinery of power, once set in motion, was not easily stopped. The forces that Kennedy had challenged were deeply entrenched and had much to lose. The questions lingered. Was Kennedy's assassination a direct result of his challenge to the Federal Reserve? Was his vision of a financially sovereign America too radical for the powers that be? Could money have been the ultimate reason for silencing JFK? The mystery remains, a poignant reminder of the complex interplay between power, politics, and finance. Our journey into the heart of Kennedy's assassination takes us now to the global stage, to the chilling backdrop of the Cold War. The world stood on the brink of nuclear annihilation, the threat of mutually assured destruction hanging heavy in the air. Amid this volatile climate, Kennedy made bold moves toward diplomacy with the USSR, particularly after the Cuban Missile Crisis. Kennedy and Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev recognized the need for de-escalation, for a thawing of the icy grip of the Cold War. This fragile peace was further solidified with the signing of the Nuclear Test Ban Treaty in 1963. But Kennedy's pursuit of peace did not sit well with everyone. Within the halls of power, a deep-seated distrust of the Soviet Union festered. Some believed that the only way to deal with the communist threat was through strength, through military might. Could elements within the government, military, or even intelligence agencies have seen JFK's moves toward peace as a threat to national security, warranting his removal? Did Kennedy's assassination serve the interests of those who sought to perpetuate the Cold War? These questions continue to haunt historians and political analysts to this day. Chapter 3. A Tide of Change. The Civil Rights Movement. Our exploration of Kennedy's assassination now takes us to the heart of America's struggle for racial equality, to the turbulent and transformative era of the Civil Rights Movement. Across the nation, African Americans were rising up, demanding an end to segregation, to discrimination, to the systemic racism that had plagued the country for centuries. Kennedy, a young and charismatic leader, found himself at the forefront of this movement. He witnessed the brutal realities of segregation, the violence inflicted upon peaceful protesters, the deeply ingrained prejudice that permeated American society. Kennedy's growing support for civil rights, particularly his push for legislation that would end segregation, was a controversial stance. In 1963, he delivered a landmark speech, a powerful call for racial equality. But Kennedy's stance on civil rights came at a cost. His support alienated Southern Democrats, a powerful political bloc at the time. Could this have put him in the crosshairs of those resisting social transformation? Was Kennedy's assassination a tragic consequence of his unwavering support for civil rights? Kennedy's legacy, his commitment to racial equality, continues to inspire generations of Americans. Chapter 4. A war-divided Vietnam War strategy. Our investigation into Kennedy's assassination now takes us to the dense, humid jungles of Southeast Asia, to the escalating and increasingly complex conflict in Vietnam. By late 1963, President Kennedy was grappling with a difficult and momentous decision, one that would have far-reaching consequences for both the United States and Vietnam. He was contemplating a major shift in U.S. involvement in the conflict, a shift that could alter the course of history. Reports suggest that Kennedy had planned to withdraw 1,000 troops by the end of 1963, a first step towards extricating the United States from the quagmire of Vietnam. This was a bold move, signaling a potential change in U.S. foreign policy. This initial withdrawal, however, was just the beginning of what Kennedy envisioned as a larger strategy. Kennedy envisioned a complete withdrawal of American military personnel by 1965, aiming for a peaceful resolution to the conflict. But Kennedy's vision of a peaceful resolution clashed with the interests of powerful factions within the U.S. government, who had different plans for Vietnam. Defense contractors, who profited handsomely from the war, saw Vietnam as a lucrative opportunity to expand their influence and wealth. High-ranking military officials saw Vietnam as a testing ground, a chance to flex their muscles on the world stage and demonstrate American military might. Did these powerful interests have a hand in silencing the president before he could make his decisive move? The question lingers. Was Kennedy's assassination a way to ensure that the war in Vietnam continued unabated, serving the interests of those who stood to gain the most? These questions continue to fuel speculation and debate, a reminder of the complex interplay between war, politics, and the pursuit of power. The legacy of Kennedy's vision and the Vietnam War remains a topic of intense scrutiny and discussion to this day. Chapter 5. Shadows of Doubt, Escalating Tensions with the CIA. Our final chapter in the mystery surrounding Kennedy's assassination takes us to the shadowy world of intelligence agencies, specifically to the Central Intelligence Agency, known for its covert operations and clandestine activities. Kennedy's relationship with the CIA was complex and fraught with tension, a relationship that would ultimately shape his presidency. The seeds of this discontent were sown in the aftermath of the Bay of Pigs invasion in 1961, a pivotal moment in U.S. history. The invasion, planned and executed by the CIA, was a humiliating failure, a debacle that left a lasting scar on the agency's reputation. Kennedy felt misled by CIA officials who had assured him that the invasion would be a success, a promise that turned out to be disastrously false. The Bay of Pigs debacle exposed significant flaws within the CIA, revealing a culture of secrecy and arrogance that Kennedy found deeply troubling and unacceptable. He was furious, reportedly saying he wanted to splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces and scatter it to the winds, a statement that underscored his deep frustration. Kennedy, in the wake of the Bay of Pigs, began to assert his authority, determined to rein in the CIA's power and bring it under tighter control. Could this have made him a target of those working in the shadows, those who thrived in the murky world of espionage and covert operations? Did Kennedy's attempts to assert control over the CIA make him an enemy of the state within the state? A threat to the established order? The answers, like so much else in the Kennedy assassination, remain shrouded in mystery, leaving us to ponder the true extent of the tensions between Kennedy and the CIA. Outrow legacy of a fallen leader. John F. Kennedy's assassination on that fateful day in Dallas continues to captivate and perplex us. It stands as a stark reminder of the fragility of power, of the dark undercurrents that often shape human events. There are many theories, but one thing remains clear. John F. Kennedy was a man of vision, someone unafraid to challenge powerful institutions. He was a beacon of hope in a world often shrouded in darkness, a leader who dared to dream of a better future. Whether it was the CIA, the military, segregationists, or financial elites, JFK's bold moves made him many enemies. He challenged the status quo, he questioned authority, he fought for a more just and equitable world. And in doing so, he made himself a target. His assassination leaves us with more questions than answers, and the truth may forever remain hidden. But even in death, Kennedy's legacy lives on, inspiring generations to fight for what they believe in, to challenge injustice, and to strive for a world where peace and equality prevail.